we are going to create a new project, a web application project. You can see here that we could just use this checkbox in order to send that automatically to application insight. This would instrument the application itself. We are not going to do it here, but we'll do it a little later. So I'm going to call it my demo, and I'm going to create a empty web application, and it's now going to the internet and fetch the NuGet packages with the SDK that is going to instrument the application automatically. So I don't need to do any kind of special thing in order to collect information. So the site is created, and I just right-click and say Add Application Insights Telemetry. I will going to use my demo account. I can say that I want to create a new application resource, or if I had already an Azure resource created, I could use it here, a resource group. I don't have one, so I just use the one that has been suggested is going to be created, but I could configure some settings in order to give it a new name or a different resource group, for example. My resource group, for example. I'm going to say the location where the data can be stored. I can choose it here. I will just choose West to US, and I will just create head, and now the data is downloading the Applications Insights SDK from nuget.org, and it's going to be, everything is going to be configured for me automatically. And now it automatically opens a help page. We are going to ignore it, and we can see here that we have here an Application Insights config file where we can configure some different stuff if you want to. Let's just rely on the defaults, and I'm just going to press F5 in order to start debugging my application. And as soon as it started, we can see here that is now a toolbar with the Application Insights. And if we navigate on the application, we can see that I haven't done anything to the application itself, but there are some telemetry that is being sent to Application Insights automatically without doing anything. So if I click on the toolbar, it's going to open automatically on the Azure portal the data from Application Insights. Okay, obviously I don't know my password. It's a demo account, but you can see here that it's opened the portal automatically. And now we have the dashboard for Application Insights. You can see the data is already being collected. It's running on my machine, but it's being collected. We can now start doing stuff. For example, if you want to drill down information and stuff like that. So the information is now already being recorded. I haven't done any change to the application, so it's automatically recording the server response time and how many server requests we had without doing anything, just by installing the SDK and configure the instrumentation key so data would be automatically sent into Application Insights. So you can see how easy it is to start using Application Insights in an ASP.NET application. We can do it by hand, by installing the NuGet package and creating the file automatically, but in Visual Studio, if you want, you can use the wizard in order to do it automatically for you without any special effort. So you can see that in 5 minutes, I'm now monitoring my application in Application Insights without any effort. We have again Willy and Derek, and they are going to talk a little about how the Rangers set up their telemetry collecting in Application Insights. So, Willy, Derek, can you tell us a little about how the Rangers are structuring their information? Are they using one resource for all the extensions, one resource per extension? What has been your thought when you structured all the resources and how you are using them currently?
Yeah, so let me give you some context. Every extension we use a continuous integration and deployment pipeline, and we deploy that extension into 3 different environments. It's a development environment, it's a beta testing environment, and then eventually it's production environment. So it's 3 environments. Just to give you a bit of a context on how we actually build these extensions. All the information that we are capturing for the extensions for all 3 environments goes into one Application Insights resource. So we have one AI resource for each extension. So for example, the folder management extension has its own resource. And all the information from all three environments are basically captured by that one resource. So it's not the secret sauce for everybody. I think everybody needs to decide what works best for them. We structured each extension as its own application insights resource because it allows us to basically focus on the data for a specific extension and also give the team working on that specific extension full access to the data. So every team has full access to the telemetry for their extension, not for other extensions, but for their extension, they have full access to all the telemetry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you are saying that your DevOps pipeline automatically creates the resources, so you don't even have to go to the portal to create it manually, or
No,
you have not reached that phase yet.
Yeah, no, we haven't reached that phase yet. The only automation that we have as part of the pipeline is that we tokenize the application insights key.
Okay.
So every resource has its own instrumentation key. And because we don't want to share that with the world when we put our kind of source code for the extension onto a public repo, we have a token in the code that is replaced with the actual instrumentation key during the pipeline. So when we actually build the extension, that's when we tokenize the instrumentation key.
Injected into the code.
But we don't automatically create the resource. That is still something we manually do. And there's probably better ways of doing that.
Oh, you can absolutely create them automatically using Azure Resource Manager, ARM templates. You can also, there's examples of it on MSDN as well. You can look it up for it if you like. But there's also ways to do it using the APIs that are available for application insights to do that as well. And as Willie was saying, he's using a single, the Rangers currently are using a single application insights resource or component to store all of the telemetry data coming out of a single extension. So for instance, the folder has a dev, beta, and live environment, and all three of those environments are sending telemetry data into the same application insights resource. That's fine for your guys' use case. No problem at all. It's working well for what you guys are trying to do, and that's great. For other places, so if you can think of an active web app that shows video for live sporting events or something like that, just think of conjure something like that in your mind. Having telemetry come from your int or from your dev and beta, going into your production application insights resource, could cause some problems. It would pollute the alerts that are being detected, because I don't know about you guys, but in my dev environment, things break all the time, and that will cause application insights to perhaps generate an alert. I don't really want to see those alerts, especially not at 3 in the morning in our live site sort of examples. So what we do is, what I've seen other teams do, I should say, is that they will separate their components for production and non-production. So the non-production ones will still get an application insights resource, and they can still mine all that great data when things do fail, even in a development environment. But in a production environment, that one is kept alone and off on its own, so that real live customer data is the only one that's actually being sampled and the only one that's actually generating alerts for my late night specialist to take care of. Anyways.
So have you considered just using one resource for extensions because you wanted to have aggregated data in a single way for all the extensions, or it's a scenario that doesn't even make sense?
Well, we do want to have an aggregated view of the data for each extension, i.e. the big picture, but not from the, like if we actually look at our dashboard, and you'll see the individual applications.
Can we see them, the dashboard, or?
Yeah, so here's the dashboard, and we've been talking about the folder management extension, which is lurking at the bottom here. So if I go select that one, you will see now the focus is on folder management. So it's a specific razor-focused view of that extension. Yes, we want to have a aggregated view across all extensions, but we do not actually capture it on this dashboard. We use other tools that I think we'll be talking about later on. But again, there's no secret sauce. Some teams want the aggregated view. We don't need it for what we use the data for.
Sure, whatever it makes sense. So
Whatever makes sense.
Whatever makes sense for
all,
your team. Yeah.
all we say is keep it as simple as possible and start with as little data as possible. So we don't keep the noise low. Otherwise you get distracted and then start focusing on what you really need.
Okay.
This is good words to live by for sure. Yes.
So in alerts, do you use alerts or each team can decide if they want alerts or not? You already talk about the proactive, so this is something that you configure for all the resources, but do you manually configure alerts for any kind of threshold or something like that? Or
Okay, when you say do you, so I as Willie, the program manager?
You as representing
Yes.
everyone, so
Yeah, all I do is I create the application insights resource for that extension and give the team access. Excuse me. It's up to the team to then decide what extra information they would like to
be
capture
alerted.
as part, in addition to the out-of-the-box data. And yes, some of the teams will create custom events, will create custom alerts, but it's not something we create from day one. And again, I said start simple. Keep the data as low as, or the noise as low as possible, and the teams that really need that information can create that information.
so they are free to do it since they have enough permissions and you don't.
Yes.
It's not something that takes your sleep and it's there.
And again, it won't work for everyone. With the Ranger program, every Ranger has access to everything. That's one of our principles, to keep things simple. In some organizations, that is obviously not possible. So this would not work for every organization out there, but it works very well for us. And our teams, which are self-organized and self-managing, they can really use the tool
On their own.
on their own to
self-serve.
get the data, to get the information that they need.
Okay, thank you. So we have seen how the Rangers are using the resources to organize their work. So they use one resource per project since they want different permissions per team. So each team only sees its own resources, its own applications. They don't need one resource per environment because they feel that the development and the pre-production environment don't pollute that much the environment data. So it's a little noise that can be tolerated. So there is no need to have one separated resource per environment, although that is recommended for things that develop and collect a lot of information in development in pre-production environments. And it also may affect the billing. For example, you may want to have a resource with a different pricing if it's development or production, or you may want to have different policies in order to export the data and don't want to export the development data, but you want to export the production data and things like that. So there are multiple strategies in terms of resources. We have seen one, and you should use the one that is more appropriate for your organization, depending on all these vectors that you want to influence.